Okay, next talk. We're delighted to have a representative of Nystagmus Network here. As I mentioned, a lot of people, around 80% of people who have Aniridia also have Nystagmus. So we kind of view Nystagmus Network very much as our kind of sister charity in many ways, and we've enjoyed going to a number of their events. So yeah, I'll hand over to Sue.
Thank you. Hello everybody. I was asked to talk about Nystagmus, and I said, well, what do you want to know about Nystagmus? And they said, well, fill 30 minutes. I think I can easily do that, so you'll have to stop me if I go on too long. I'm sorry about that. So, who are the Nystagmus Network? Can I just do a straw poll? Who's heard of us? Hands up. Oh, well done. Good. Lots of people. So, as James said, and it's in your documentation today, 83% of people who have Aniridia are also affected by Nystagmus. So why is there a separate group for Nystagmus? Well, of course, there are lots of people who have Nystagmus who don't have Aniridia but have other eye conditions or no other conditions at all. And we are here to support adults with Nystagmus, parents and their children. So how did we start? We started off in 1984 as a very, very small self-help group, and this lady on the screen is Vivian Jones, who is our founder and our current honorary president. She founded the group because when her son was diagnosed as a small baby with Nystagmus in 1984, she couldn't find any information about the condition at all, and she thought, this is no good. What are parents supposed to do? They need support, they need information. So she started the charity. We've now gone on, obviously, to become a much bigger organisation. We're a registered charity since the 1990s. At least 1 in 1,000 people in the UK population is affected by Nystagmus, and it's thought it could be as many as 2 in 1,000 people. So as a small charity, we are still a small charity, we have a very, very big community to serve. Our objectives are to provide information and support to everyone in the Nystagmus community who needs it, to raise awareness of the condition, to make sure that everyone who's living with Nystagmus has access to the support that they need and that their quality of life is better. And we also fund research wherever we can. We are making progress in research all the time. Of course, a parent who comes to me with a newly diagnosed baby is looking for a cure because they are worried about what the future holds for their small child, and they just want them to be made better. Of course they do. But we have to persuade them that living with Nystagmus is actually okay, provided you get the support that you need. But we do continue to fund research. I was actually in contact with one of our researchers only this week, Dr. Helen Ricketts in Sheffield, who is working on a new virtual reality tool for people who in particular have the acquired form of Nystagmus, the form that comes on in later life as a result of another neurological or health condition. And she is now she has a prototype piece of equipment which can actually play a still image to the person with acquired Nystagmus who otherwise sees the world as moving. So that's a big advance, and that's something that we've funded ourselves with Fight for Sight in partnership. The big thing that we've done this year is that we have finally launched an information and support line. So there's our telephone number if you ever need to speak to us and need any information, support, advice, guidance about anything at all related to Nystagmus. It will be me that answers the phone during office hours, because there is only me and 2 other members of staff who are part-time. So I will answer it whenever I can, otherwise please leave a message and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. The other service that we provide, which may be of use to a lot of you, is that we have free to download information leaflets on our website. Please do visit our website, there's a huge amount of information on there. But if you hit the Documents tab on the website, you will come to all our all our free to download information, and it's there at your fingertips. The reason we have it there free to download and don't have print forms is that we are constantly updating it. So if legislation changes, if something new comes out in research or anything like that, we update the documents. So we have documents there for parents, how to improve the vision of your newly diagnosed child, how to support your child through school. We have things for adults with congenital and acquired nystagmus, because they're very, very different conditions, but we support both of those sets of people. We also have information on nystagmus and benefits, and our latest publication is called Nystagmus and Driving. Now, I apologise immediately if driving with your eye condition is an absolute no-no, but lots of people with nystagmus are quite near the sight test, for the DVLA sight test for driving, and they want to know whether they are safe to drive or not. Obviously, that's not my decision, but we have a publication now which can talk you through the process. Another service we offer is education, advice, guidance and advocacy. This is Frances, our trained education advocate. Her services are free of charge to members of the charity, and she provides advocacy and ongoing support for as long as a family might need it, to make sure that their children are accessing the support that they are entitled to and that they need in school. I have to tell you though that Frances, as you can probably imagine, is very, very busy. So partly because Frances is so busy, she and I have got together and we're putting together an online information resource about education support, and we're hoping that it is going to become available via our website certainly by the end of this year. And that will include information for parents, but it will also be useful, I think, for educational professionals as well, because it will have everything on there, as all the signposts to all the services that you might possibly need when you're supporting your child with a visual impairment through school. So it'll start with things like how to get hold of large print books, textbooks and things like that. It will take you right through the EHC plan application process. It will talk about things like access arrangements for exams. So everything a parent could need, really. I said that one of our objectives is raising awareness of the condition, and one of the ways that we do that is by holding a national and international Nystagmus Awareness Day. And the big news for this year is that we have changed the date. Probably some of you know that we used to hold Nystagmus Awareness Day, or Wobbly Wednesday as we called it, in November each year. It was always the first Wednesday of November each year. But this year we have made the decision to move to a new permanent date, which is the 20th of June. So to celebrate the fact that we are now going to be at a time when the weather will be lovely, I'm assured by the Met Office, and certainly we will have lighter evenings, we are going to raise awareness of nystagmus this year under the headline of Nystagmus in the Open. So what that means is lots of people, including me, are going to be opening their gardens to the public and having everyone round, all their friends, family and neighbours round, and we're going to fleece them for tea and cake, and we're going to have plant sales and all that sort of thing, and raise awareness of nystagmus and also raise much needed funding. So the other thing is research. Our other objective is research, and here's a picture of some of our lovely researchers who are working away on nystagmus, hopefully as we speak. Oh no, it's Saturday, isn't it? I'll give them the day off for today. These people were speaking at our open day last year. We've actually worked with 6 teams across the UK. We work with Cardiff, we work with Sheffield, Leicester University, Moorfields in London, of course, Southampton and Plymouth. We, as a small charity, fund as much research as we possibly can. It certainly helps that we fund it in partnership with Fight for Sight, as you are going to be doing this year. But we all know, I think, that there is a real lack of funding in eyesight research. It's a huge lack. The UK government, for example, spends way more on dentistry than they do on eye research. So what can we do about that? There is somebody who is doing something very, very big about that, and I wanted to make sure that you'd all heard about him. Have you heard of Julian and his big blind walk? Have you heard of him?
Yes.
You have? Good. Well done.
It's in my newsletter, comes out tomorrow.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, I hope that Pocklington Trust would know about him. But for the rest of you, if I can just briefly tell you what he's up to. Julian runs his own social enterprise called Vision Bridge. The reason he's interested in sight conditions is that in 2010 he lost his sight completely to retinitis pigmentosa. He then realised that there wasn't enough research going on out there, and the reason for that was the lack of funding. So he decided to do something about it. And what is he doing? He is walking 1,000 miles from Land's End to John O'Groats. And he's starting on the 29th of April. He's been training in all this mud and rain and snow and goodness knows what, but he's doing a grand job. And he's going to achieve it, and his aim is to raise £300,000 for eyesight research. And that's good for all of us, whichever eyesight condition we have. So if you can support him, please Google him, find Big Blind Walk website and look at his route and see if you can get out to cheer him on at least. I've got people all along the route who are going to be wearing Nystagmus Network t-shirts cheering him along, because the idea is to get him as much interest and as much media coverage as we possibly can. He is going to be on Country File on the 29th of April. They're going to be cheering him off, and Matt Baker has promised to walk part of the way with him, but I don't think he's going to get all the way to Scotland. We also have an annual open day, just as you do. This year it's going to be on Saturday the 29th of September in Birmingham, and everyone is welcome. The places are priority booking for members of the charity, and they are free to members of the charity, but everyone is welcome to take up the additional places. I'm hoping for around 200 to 250 families to come along. And it is usually a good day. Glenn here, your own Glenn, was one of our speakers last year, so he can tell you all about it if you want to know what it's like from a speaker's point of view. We always have very interesting speakers, and this year is no exception. We're going to be joined by Marcia de Cordova, first of all, who is an MP. She is also the Shadow Minister for Disabilities, and she has nystagmus herself. So she was delighted to accept my invitation to come and speak, because she says that nystagmus is an issue very close to her heart. And the other person who is speaking, I'm not sure whether you have heard of him, David Katz. Has anyone heard of David Katz? No? David Katz is an internationally acclaimed photographer, particularly a sports photographer, and he's had a very high-flying career as a photographer. He's photographed heads of state, he's photographed prime ministers, he's photographed all the big sports events and so on. But what he has only just revealed in his video called Through My Lenses, and I would urge you to watch his video, Through My Lenses, you'll find it on YouTube, is that he is registered blind. He has nystagmus because of ocular albinism. So David is a member of the Nystagmus network, and he's coming to speak to us this year. And I'm really excited because I know he's going to have lots to tell, because he's just returned from the assignment of his lifetime. He was photographing the Winter Paralympics in Pyeongchang. So what does it mean to have nystagmus? I'll let 11-year-old George tell you what it means to him. He says it means my eyes sometimes move without me wanting them to. It means sometimes I find it difficult to see things. It means I can only see about 3 meters clearly. It hurts my eyes if I have to look at long distances. That's very typical of a child of that age with nystagmus, and that child has just started secondary school, so imagine all the issues around that, and he's struggling with his visual impairment as well. You might want to watch another video that we made, which is called Nystagmus, The Way We See It. And there's actually quite a famous face in there. You might recognise Richard Osman from the telly, from Pointless. He does have nystagmus, and he very kindly agreed to appear in our video. Also in the video, you will hear Harriet, who has nystagmus because of albinism, talking about the support that she receives at school. So what is nystagmus? How would I describe nystagmus to somebody who'd never heard of it before? What I say is it's an involuntary movement of the eyes, or wobbly eyes. It's a recognised visual disability. It's a lifelong condition. It's a standalone condition, but it is also associated with a lot of other health issues, such as Down syndrome or albinism, or of course Aniridia. And also it is currently incurable. Following on from the last speaker, I just wanted to mention briefly the social and emotional aspects of nystagmus, which is something that I'm particularly interested in. We all can recognise what happens when you can't see very well and the sort of support that you might need, but do we always take into account the social and emotional aspects? The fact that people with nystagmus in particular and visual impairment generally find it difficult to make and maintain eye contact, that thing that you're told to do when you go for a job interview, for example. What about first impressions? People with nystagmus are often accused of being a bit shy or a bit shady or a bit shifty because their eyes are moving. People with nystagmus cannot pick up on social cues. They can't read facial expressions or know that somebody is joking very easily. They can't always recognise their friends. There are all sorts of tips and life hacks that people in the nystagmus community have for meeting their friends. They make sure that they're there first so that their friends have to recognise them and then they don't have to do it. Or they recognise people by their hairstyle or the colour of their coat or their walk or their body shape, that sort of thing. We have funded some research actually ourselves into facial recognition, and it's been found that small babies find it very difficult, if not impossible, to recognise the face of their own mother. So no wonder we have problems finding our friends. So because of these sight problems, this can lead on to the social and emotional aspects, such as being able to join in, a child in school, for example, being able to join in. This can lead in later life, to low self-esteem, to feelings of social isolation, and of course the depression. And bullying does happen, I'm afraid, when a child has nystagmus. Children can be really rotten, can't they? I'm sure they're not always, but children can be a bit horrible when somebody looks or acts slightly differently from the way they do or from the way that they were expecting. So my daughter was bullied, so I do know that it happens, and it's very upsetting, obviously. This is my daughter. She was called Alien Eyes throughout primary school, but I didn't discover this until she was about to leave primary school. But I hope you'll agree that she doesn't actually look like an alien. She managed to survive the bullies, though. She turned out all right in the end. She couldn't read very well when she first went to primary school, but she does have a degree from the University College London now. And she's a very happy and successful young lady. Thank you. Oh dear, I've set the dogs off again. So, why do I work for the Nystagmus Network? Why does the Nystagmus Network exist? It's because little charities can make a difference. Despite the huge size of the Nystagmus community that we support, and we are still a tiny charity, we have no official income. All our income comes from fundraising, donations and membership subscriptions, nothing else. But we still manage to survive just. I was the only member of staff until January this year, but I do currently have 2 part-time temporary members of staff supporting me, and it's been wonderful because I've been able to do so much more. But sadly, we may have to say goodbye to them at the end of June because funds just can't stretch that far, I'm afraid. But we do still manage to fund research every year. Almost every year since 1984, we've been able to dedicate at least some funding to research, and this year is no exception. But small charities can get together. We are working very closely now with Albinism Fellowship UK, obviously because of the big crossover between people who have albinism and who have nystagmus, and together we can achieve things. We'd like to work more closely too with Aniridia UK. And here's one way that we could do that. I'm here today to offer you, members of ANUK, to come along to the Nystagmus Network snow camps in June and July this year. We're running, this is the second year we've run them, we're running snow camps for visually impaired children and adults at the Snow Zone in Milton Keynes, and I'm hoping that's not too far for people to travel. But what we're doing is we're running beginner and intermediate skiing sessions and also sledging for people who don't ski at all. And we'd like everyone to come along. The visually impaired children and adults will be guided by professional guides, and their fully sighted parents, siblings and friends are very welcome to come along as well. So if you're interested in that, or interested in the Big Blind Walk, or interested in coming along to Open Day in September, or you want to do something crazy for Nystagmus Awareness Day, please come and see me at the stand after this, because together we can make a big difference. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sue. That was very interesting. We seem to have quite a sort of symbiotic relationship with Nystagmus Network, because often when you do an event, we've either just done it or we follow suit. So
Yes.
like when you had your Bristol event, we then had our Bristol event, and similarly in Leicester, not Leicester.
Are you coming to Birmingham?
Yeah, but we're thinking of Birmingham next year,
Right.
and so we basically seem to keep following each other. And in fact, this event was going to be in Snow Zone.
Really?
At one point. Yes. Anyway, excellent. Any questions for Sue? Let's go for tea break.
Yes, they all want their
Um,
tea.
We've heard a bit of a mention of ECLOs earlier. I don't know if you wanted to mention about that at all.
Well, I am actually trying to reach the ECLOs at the moment because I think they all need to have information about these various eye conditions that we represent, and particularly obviously Aniridia and Nystagmus. And I'm wondering whether they actually do, because we could make they're all very busy, we hear. We can't get hold of them. I'm in Lincoln and I can't get hold of mine. I've got two for the county of Lincolnshire and I can't get hold of either of them. Maybe they're avoiding me, I don't know. But I would really like them to have information because it would make their jobs easier. It would lighten their workload, wouldn't it, if they had information at their fingertips that they could signpost people to.
So we're planning on.
Yes, so what we're doing is we're planning on. We're actually putting bids in for some funding at the moment, together with Aniridia UK and Albinism Fellowship, to see if we can actually fund some hours for a member of staff. I'd really like to keep my members of staff going because they're so good, they're really, really good. To actually work on contacting and building relationships with the ECLOs and providing training for them. So that's the next big project.
Any questions? No. Okay, thank you very much, Sue.
You're welcome.